All right, guys. So, welcome once again today for another interesting session from buildyourOwnParts.com. And today we have with us a very distinguished guest, Sairee Chahal, who's the founder of Sheroes, which is one of the largest women's community based in India. And she's also is Aspen Leadership Fellow. She has won multiple awards for awesome work that she has done to empower millions of women around entire social circles in India. She has won Tevi Award winner. She has also won Femina Achievers Award, Cartier Award, Editor's Choice for L'Oreal Femina Women's Award, Business Today, and Most Powerful Woman in Indian Business. In 2018, she was also ranked 53 on Litaka's Future of Work Top 100 Influencers list. So with that, I will welcome Sairee on board.
Thank you, Satish. Thank you so much for having me here.
Hi, Sairee. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So it's a great privilege and honor to have you amongst us today. And thank you for gracing us and gracing buildyourownparts.com for sharing your inspiring story and your nuggets with all the audience that is present with us today. It's a privilege for me to talk to you and speak with you.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. All right, Sairee, so we'll start off right away. I think we are on time today. While I have kind of tried to introduce a bit, but it would be awesome if you can kindly, briefly talk about your journey, from a 17-year-old girl, who left Muzaffarnagar to join GNU, and from there, that's where your life started out. That's where your career got into formative stages. So maybe if you can just kind of take us through your journey and and how was it? What were the multiple ventures that you built up around the way?
Right. So look, I grew up in a small town, and I think that's been my greatest gift. When everything else in life is a bonus because everything else is a bigger canvas. So I wanted to sort of out and just broaden my horizons, give myself better opportunities, much like millions of Indians. So nothing new about that there. I think two things that sort of and this is all in hindsight, like nobody what's going to happen in their career and their lives, but two things that sort of worked really for me. One is, I think, just a sense of openness, right? I think I said a lot of opportunities and ideas that were intuitive, but maybe logically very silly, right? Like doing my first startup was one of those. And second was just, I think, giving myself different options, and I think in India we do this a lot. This is your stream and you will stick to it for a long time, and people don't experiment with skills and projects. And person, you have a lot of liberty to experiment, and that's something that I ended up doing. And what it did was, it gave me a big range, and it also gave me a lot of depth to stand on. So just to sort of put that into a little more specific items, I started work while I was still in college, and the kind of things I did were really, really diverse. They were small projects back then, but they were, I think, seeds for a lot of things I ended up doing later in my career. So for example, my first paid job was teaching a couple in MEA Russian tuitions. They would come every Saturday to teach them. And, again, nothing great about teaching somebody, but what it was, they were supposed to go to Moscow. So, they wanted to learn the language very quickly. And but what that did for my own career was, everybody in India, and through MEA, I started getting into the embassy circles, and that was the time when all the Russian embassies were. So very early on, I had like a network very, very closely within MEA embassies. Things that we also find hard to build because these are difficult networks to break into, and it all happened organically. Then I started doing part-time work for this place called India CIS Chambers of Commerce. Okay, they had a small office in South. Every day after class, I would go work for 4. They needed done. I was just an intern, but again, I got to see industry pretty close, right, while I'm still doing my graduation, and that really helped because, again, one, it puts you in a sense of discipline. Two, you get to learn different things. Three, you get to meet different people, and that again helped me. And the other sort of thing that transpired was I took up a position at a business magazine as a sub-editor, and in fact, this is very interesting because these days we talk of remote work and gig-based work and all of that. So the magazine's office was very close to where I used to live, and I went to meet the editor, and I told him, "You give me a job, I will come after college, and I will finish whatever you have here, but I can only come after 2 o'clock." He said, "No, 9 a.m. positions, everybody's here by 9, we're very strict, all of that." So somehow I convinced him to give me the job, and he did, so it was a first full-time job as a sub-editor, and he gave me a job where I could come 2 o'clock, but he said, "You have to finish everything, whatever it takes. Even if you have to be here till 12, you be here till 12. So I said, "That's fine." So that was, the first time when that company started doing this kind of new formats of part-time and gig-based. And I was a student, everybody else had like a full-time job. But, by end of 6-7 months, I was actually, running the whole magazine because,
Okay.
yeah, and it was pretty sort of, and why that happened because the editor had an accident and he had to go on long leave. And somebody had to run it, so so again, one of those opportunities. So the thing that sort of worked for me is that you have to sort of constantly look for opportunities even when none exist. You have to kind of manufacture them for yourself. And so by the time I'm done with my formal education, I had worked for 3-4 years. So, and that was really because I had a network, I was already making money. I was very clear on what I like to do, and then of course the most fun opportunity of my life came around where we built Newslink as a product for mariners who were sailing on high seas, and again something very, very new. I mean, till today I haven't been on a merchant navy ship or a ship for that matter. I've never lived near a port, but I met this guy and he said, "Look, I'm a sailor. I've sailed all my life. I want to solve this very big industry problem where, merchant navy guys who sail on high seas suffer from depression because they don't get good news from home. They don't know what's happening in their swords or stock markets or politics, and I want to do something about that." So I said, "Okay, this sounded really interesting." I had no clue. I had no clue what he wants to do, and I had no clue on what this is going to be. And in a normal circumstance, people would be looking for a stable job. Like they would be looking for something that would sort of be very defined with a JD. And here I was, first person on that team, and I said in the first meeting itself, I said, "Look, I'm in this, count me in and let's do this, Uh, and we ended up building a company that not only runs till today, it actually solved a very hard industry problem. It was profitable, it got acquired, it created wealth for all stakeholders. And we did a really good job, because we covered almost 2/3 of the industry by end of 3 to 4 years, so
Wow. And it was born out of nothing. It was just born out of an actual market need.
Absolutely, it was this conversation, and so we set up a small office. It was in actually his apartment, Deepak's apartment, and we set up a small team. I set up the small team. So he said, "Look, I'm going to go bring the business." So he was an industry insider. We set up a sales office in Cyprus, where shipping industry is based. So we had an office in Cyprus. We had a production office in Delhi, and later we set up an office in Philippines. And so we set this up. I set up the entire piece, and I was 21, 22. I didn't know nothing. Okay, I was a liberal arts student, but I had a lot of enterprise, and I was fearless. Like I really couldn't, care less about what people thought or whether I should be seen doing this or not. But I was really interested in what he was doing, and I wanted to be a part of it. So I ended up doing things that I would have never imagined. Hiring engineers to begin. I mean, now imagine you are a MPhil in international relations, and here you are hiring engineers to build your product. Totally steep learning it. Once you're there, you do it. And then obviously setting up the whole operation. And news is a very tight operation. This is a daily operation. Starts coming in by 11. By 4 o'clock, you have done the news. You have 2 hours to produce. By 7, you have to, dispatch, beam the editions. We started with 3 editions, and by end of it, we were doing like 25, 26 editions. All the sailing nationalities in the world: Ukraine, Latvia, Myanmar, Philippines, India, Russia,
Wow.
And we were doing it. Yeah, so I think so super steep learning curve, but great use case for the industry because, and it's only now. Look, I didn't know any of these terms. I didn't know that this is what you call SaaS, because the companies would pay us per subscriber, per ship, per edition in advance. Before they got the editions on board, they would get like a whole onboarding kit, download on the deck, distribute, print on the deck, then distribute on the deck. So these were sort of some interesting innovations back then, but it was great fun, and I got to build it from day one. I learned a lot of things: how to hire people senior than me, which are the right skill sets to hire, and then of course how media industry works. There was a time when I think I went to office for 400 days straight. The new operation, we were a small team. News never has a day off, and then my office manager came and said, "Look, you have to go on a break, else labor inspector will catch up." So I
Right.
took like a week off to sort of do this, but it's fun. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Awesome. Awesome. And then how did Flexi Moms came up?
Right. So actually, Fleximoms happened a little later. So this is Fleximoms happened pretty much as a very small experiment. I used to run a consulting firm, and my own team had, all this. We just ended up hiring a lot more women. We would need high level events, and we would work with a lot of women who were, either traveling spouses or who were, ex consultants from McKinsey and Bain, or who were remote. I mean, nobody of remote those days, but we had remote teams. Even this is 2006. So Fleximoms happened literally, one fine day in office talking. How so many really talented women who are just not able to sort of do this 9 to 5. Like, how, if we can do this, why can't other companies do this? So we called a developer in Noida, asked him to make a small website to say, you just make 2 forms. Let's sort of get companies to sign up and women sign up, and let's start doing more of this. More flexible remote work. Let more women join the workforce. We will also do other things. It went from there. And then I think because we were the first ones on the internet to go and talk about remote work, flexible work, women finding opportunities, women coming back to work, I think it just flew. Like Fleximoms had a lot of virality. Even today, a lot of people actually sort of know a lot about Fleximoms, or like they get pings from saying we sign, and of course, so it started from there, and clearly one could see 2 things are happening. Internet's growing, and this is also the time when this had happened, and Make My Trip had happened, India Mart had happened, but Flipkart hadn't happened. And one had happened, but Paytm hadn't happened. So this was the in between phase, and clearly one knew that, look, this is going to change in India. Like you had to sort of imagine. And I mean, my thesis has remained the same for a very long time, that internet's definitely the biggest platform everyone has. But even today, right, the core thesis is that women who need it a lot because of other gaps, gender gaps, social barriers, mobility barriers, can extract a lot of value out of it. right? So
Mm,
flexing on that idea, Sheroes is that idea, and of course
mm,
everything we do now is still based on the same pieces that internet for women can be a hugely powerful force. They can get more from it. Uh, so it started from there, and then of course we went to set up Sheroes as a full-fledged platform. First as a jobs and careers platform for women, and now as a whole ecosystem for women, a social network for
right. Awesome. So, talking about your journey from Newslink to Sheroes, right? What do you think, were the main learning milestones that you took from one venture to the other, and how did it kind of help you in your journey, and how did they help you to move forward? Like, what did you learn from Newslink that you carried forward to, to your next venture, and then to your next venture?
women. Right. So one of the biggest that the leadership has to scale. And when I say that, I think um, a lot of us get into situations when things are it's like when usually we get an idea and we were able to do something with it. But eventually, I think the company scale, the leaders scale. The founders have to scale, and every scaling journey is different because so I think till such time that leadership is having a steep learning curve, companies will continue to scale. And I think that challenge has to be presented of very often. So if for example if we had just sort of said that we won't going to go outside the whole jobs for women's space or with Newslink, if we had so not pushed ourselves, none of this would have happened, right?
Mm,
So, uh, so I think leadership, you as a founder, uh, needs to be on a steep learning curve all the time. So
mm,
some ways a part of you has to always feel a little stretched. It's like how
right,
when you're working out, a part of you is always pushing that little, for that extra inch, in
right,
your
right,
dog or extra inch of stretch. I think
right,
leadership has to do the stretch, and
right.
if leadership was feeling that, then companies are growing, like because you're clearly testing outside, you're testing things outside of your comfort zone. Right.
Mm, mm,
Like for Sheroes, we are now testing, social commerce, and I don't understand nothing about commerce, but if it's important for us, we got to learn that skill, we got to learn that domain, we got to sort of do it better. So being able to sort of do this is a very important skill for everyone, whether you're a very small company or whether you're Microsoft. I think that's a core skill that leadership needs to sort of test outside its boundaries, all the
right,
time. Second is, I
right.
think, uh, even more so, uh, change change is faster than you believe. Like, and I think that's the nature of business today. Maybe there was a time when people had one business and that ran for the rest of their lives. You may still
Mm,
have the same business, but its evolution will be much faster. Given
mm,
every space of technology, pace of consumers, just the restlessness of consumers, and everything else. So I think those are very important. And third is, I think, just your relationships. Like I always sort of feel that a part of my journey has happened because a lot of people have helped me when they really need not have, and these are people on the journey, are people I knew who I've known all along, their friends, peers, colleagues, ex-colleagues, mentors, and I think all of them have at some point come around and helped me, right? And most of these people didn't come into my life because I needed their help. They were just part of my life there, but I was able to reach out to them for help, and it was a relationship that I had, already. If I didn't have them in my life, I wouldn't be able to sort of, pick that phone and say, can you do something? Right.
Sure.
So I think very, very important to be able to pick up the phone and say, can you help? And of course, return that favor, pay it forward, like, keep the circle going. And I think that's one of the things Silicon Valley has done really well, right? So I mean, the iconic, Larry and Steve Jobs, conversations. If some of those hadn't happened, Apple would miss out on a lot of things, right? So same here, a lot of conversations. Actually, the first conversation about Sheroes was with Vijay at Paytm. Okay, this is what I'm. And he's like, why don't you go set up, and we'll support you. And obviously he has, and then other people have, Rajan or Vinny or various people, right? And and I think a lot of people want to be part of something that is valuable to us as a society, to us as an economy. To, a lot of people want to actually do real good work, and I think if you're building something that's bigger than you, then you need, it takes a village. You need a lot of people to help you, and being able to sort of go to these people or at least know who are these people is important.
Acha. That's great. Thanks for that. Sairee, also, I think along the way, right, if you can just kind of recall maybe one or two challenges that you faced, or maybe potential failures that you thought of something, but you were not able to achieve that milestone, right?
Yeah.
And then how did you kind of made up that mindset, or what kind of activities did you do to be able to counter that challenge, and move forward? So if you can just maybe
Right.
talk a little bit about that.
Right. So look, I think I have to say that as a founder, you fail more than you succeed. You actually fail,
Yeah.
almost on a daily basis. Except like one or two things work, and then people think you're like ace. But the truth is, we're really good at failing. We've sort of failed more often than anybody can possibly imagine. So I think the thing about being a founder is that the highs are very highs and the lows are very low. And
Yeah.
somewhere, if you can counter that a little bit to say, don't be too excited about success. It's nice to sort of, celebrate a milestone, but that's what it is. It's on a daily basis. These things come and go. So success will come and go, and so will failure. So I think you have to taper down the effect of both, success and failure, so that there is some amount of, consistency in your own life, because the truth is, uh, you're going to do this for a long time. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, and which means that you have to have the energy to do this consistently every day. Some days you will not see any results, like in our
Right.
case, like this whole women's space, right? Like, I mean, from the day I started talking about it, it's only now people are saying women are a big stakeholder on the internet, right? And
Yeah.
it's, but when we first started, it was not even a conversation. I think, except we work with, this wouldn't have transpired. Right? They got it. They saw my vision and they saw where this could go, and they also knew internet's going to change, right? So imagine 2012, 2013 having a conversation with Vinny to say, there's going to be a women's internet, right? Or women only use to happen on the internet. I'm sure he did not know whether they're going to happen or not, but he clearly could see the line of sight. He could clearly see the difference this would make. And and I think, from a failure perspective, look, I think that there's a book of failures there. To be very honest, products don't take off, things don't, your revenue targets are missed, your product sort of doesn't shape up in the way you expect it to. Like, for example, one of the biggest sort of shifts at Sheroes was we started as a jobs and careers platform for women in a pre-geo age, and by 2017, Geo and WhatsApp had happened, right? Like they were all over the place. The market changed completely. From being 10 million women online, there were now almost 140 to 50 million women online. It had grown
Wow.
10x in 3 years. Okay. And what we were saying and doing was totally out of context now, because we were chasing a very small market size now. And so we went back to the drawing board and we did a complete reboot. Okay. We went back to the board to say, don't expect revenue for 2 years. We went back to kill the product we had built for the first 3 years to say, this is not relevant anymore. And we will start afresh because there is a new market. And clearly, this is really rattling at zero, because you're saying what you are now going to go to ground zero again now because you're doing so well. You have 20,000 companies, you have a million, but like what's but we did that. We did that, and it was two very very hard, painful years of setting a new platform in place. But if but you have to ask yourself the question: do you want to go to 100 million or do you want to stay at 1 million? Right?
Right.
Because
Right.
the stories are different, and you know, and it has to happen. So big shift. Imagine going to a board to say, don't expect revenues like we're going to start up again, all over again. But but I expect our burn to increase. It's the kind of stuff that gives investors heart attacks. But you got to do it, right? And you may also count this as a failure. That if you don't move forward, then it's a real failure. Then and
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
success. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and the many of these, and I think it happens just in terms of product experimentation, growth features, right? So I think the a good question to ask is also, the graveyard of dead features on a product. I think that's really a lot of failures that every product company has seen. But yeah, so happens.
Awesome, awesome. I think those were some very interesting insights out there. Sairee, I think once again you touched upon a very important fact in the beginning that the leadership has to scale, right? The leader has to scale, and I think all of us when we start something, we never think of what could be possible, right? For example, I'm sure when you started Sheroes, even you would have not imagined the kind of evolution or the kind of scale that it has garnered today, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
how does that shift happen? I mean, how does one keep moving through the stages? What's the kind of mindset makeup that could help a founder
yeah.
to be able to keep opening up to new possibilities and kind of keep expanding internally and externally. If you can just kind of maybe talk about your experience out there.
Right. So I call it the Olympic strategy. Basically, you know what you want. You want that gold medal. You want to stand on that podium, and you want to sort of say like, this is where I want to go. But to
Right.
get there, you need to, one, get up every morning and practice. Two, you need
Right.
to try new techniques. Three, you need to test your own nutrition levels and like everything else, right? So I think this is a little bit like that. You know what's your big goal, right? You know what is possible. Like earlier we would say a million women, now we say 100, and then I would start talking to somebody who's like, why aren't you saying a billion? So clearly, that big rise should be very clear. And I think the other thing that's very important is your own core values, right? So for us, trust of the women is very very number one. That's how we want to lead this, right? So there's a certain pieces on which this is built. But rest of it is actually good old efficiency.
Yes.
As
Right.
simple as respond to emails on time, as simple as call back every customer, as simple as ship code as often as possible, as simple as maintain your sales funnel. So the good thing is you don't have to innovate on everything. There's
Right.
a lot of steady knowledge available to be just taken and practiced, right? So you don't have to for yourself, and that playbook is actually one of efficiency and consistency and sort of doing things every day that are very very important. Actually, the most important thing in a company's, if you look at a day in life of a company, if you just
Mm.
did that, that tells you a lot about what is going on,
Right.
in terms, you know uh, and I think that those are things to look at on a daily basis. But sort of and that it's zoom in zoom out very very regularly. That is sort of important. And for us, it's obviously, we say we still want to, we dream of women's internet, we dream of building a Shiro stack. Those things are not possible today. Those things will happen once we've crossed a certain threshold. So for us, it was product first, monetization second, the Sheroes stack third, and then hyperscale. So it's kind of like a very clear journey, but each one of these is a big block, in itself. Each of these is a startup in itself in terms of, how much execution it needs. One way to do this is to actually be able to articulate all of your vision into 100, 200,000 action items, right? Like basically these are action items to say,
Right.
We need to sort of, what are the 5 things that need to happen every day for this to translate, right? So it's the same, 10,000 hours of training, or it's the same as it's X level of fitness, right? So I
Right.
think that daily health check needs to happen very, very often.
Right.
And that and your vision have to match,
Right.
like, you can't sort of, the direction is the same,
Right.
the small effort and the big efforts may same direction, and if you keep doing it consistently, and if you keep doing it deeply enough, it kind of works out, and then look, there's still things you may not be able to control. The truth is, you can do everything right, and still, there might be a black swan event. I was looking at the NB, forecast. Who can predict things like this? Or change in overall macros. And then, I think as founders, you're in the business of risk. Actually, you're in the business of building something that you can't predict. But and that is the kind of sort of openness you need to have at all times. You may do everything right and still may not work out, but that's okay.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that was uh, very, very inspiring and very, to the point, and very useful. Okay. So yes, I think, as you know, I've written this book, which is called Unblock, and this book talks about certain attitudinal hacks which can help an entrepreneur to strengthen his mindset. So if I ask you, if I ask you for maybe 2 tips on how have you unblocked success for yourself, what do you think it would be, in a very summarized manner? What were the 2 tips that you would give, that you have used to unblock success for yourself?
Right. So look, I think my tips are very, very simple. One is, I have the vision. I have blinkers on. I see nothing else in my life. Like, I have a very simple life way. I see my work and I see, my daughter, and like, I have my priorities very clear. I don't have a social life. I don't have any real interest outside of work.
Hmm.
And for me, everything it just connects. Like, it's just very unidirectional, if I may say. So I think in
Right.
some ways I've sort of managed to super simplify it. I've done a Marie Kondo on my life, in terms of what I want out of it. So I
Right.
think there's a lot of directional simplicity there. It just helps me
Right.
get this, and I've also sort of figured out that uh, this works for me, and so I think just having a lot of simplicity in your life helps.
Right.
Whichever, and I think that's sort of there. And second is just, I am very inspired by, the idea of daily practice. So whether it is, Buddhist monks or sports people or, coding geeks, everything is daily practice. Basically,
Yeah.
it's consistency to show up and do what you're supposed to do every single day. There's
Right.
nothing that beats that. I think especially in this world, just email efficiency is a hack. I mean, how many people don't even respond to emails on time? Like,
Right.
I have like a bone to pick there, but I just find just showing a day and doing the job at hand
Right.
is it's,
Right.
and if you're doing that over a period of time, but what you're doing is setting an engine in place, and that engine seems to work, right? So, and I think, and it allows you to sort of stretch your time a little bit, So I think you're getting more out of it. And actually, there is no real genius. I just feel that most of this is showing up and doing the thing at hand very well, just being very sort of, uh, kind of, you treat it like a daily practice. You just sort of, do it and just sort of make sure this is what works for you. I mean, I can only say what works for me. I can't sort of prescribe for somebody else. But for me, there's a complete lack of any distractions, So,
Right.
in terms of, what else could I do my time? So the options are very little.
Mm. Right. Okay, awesome. So I think while I just also open the floor, for questions,
Yeah.
maybe if you can just also talk about, any concluding remarks or any concluding suggestions that you may have for our audience out here.
Right. So look, I think we live in a very interesting time, and sometimes I'm a little jealous of people who are building startups today because clearly there's a lot more not only room to play, but also your time to market is much faster, your ability to experiment is much higher, and I think there are just so many ideas waiting to happen. And I think today we are already in a space where uh, India can think global, and India can build startups for the world and products for the world. And especially for young people, I definitely want to sort of say that uh, ship your ideas, ship more code, and it doesn't matter whether it works or not. That experience of doing that entire exercise, that's really valuable. So some ideas will work, some will not work, but start doing it when you're in college. Start doing it when, as soon as you can. It doesn't matter who you are, but if you start shipping some of these things, it's great because what you're doing is you're putting yourself out there, and if you already run a company, don't worry too much that this is the final answer. Like, a lot of us carry a lot of deadwood in our companies, you know, uh, barely growing businesses, small markets, things that are sort of working but not working. Right? We're not so excited about that. Don't be scared to make a shift. Like, it's all good. There are much bigger sort of opportunities out there, and chase the ones that seem very very exciting to you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. We got one question, out here, which is saying that given the COVID situation, right? Given the challenges from the COVID, right? And a lot of people, including a lot of working women, are facing a lot of challenges. Because suddenly they have, kind of dual responsibilities of managing their homes as well as managing their careers, right? And that is also obviously causing a lot of mental anguish amongst women, right? So in that scenario, one, how can is Sheroes doing something to help them out? And second, what would you personally recommend to such women, and how can they kind of
Yeah.
kind of maintain their sanity in these tough times?
Right. So a really good question, and something very close to our hearts. In fact, we've been putting out a lot of stuff on this on our blog. It's called Sheroes.tech, so do check it out. But look, we realize this is doubly challenging time for women, and so we run a helpline on Sheroes. Okay, it's a
Okay.
counseling helpline. It's available to anyone who's on the Sheroes app, on the Sheroes website,
Okay.
and you can speak to a counselor. Okay, you can speak to a counselor Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So, somebody will be able to talk to you.
Sure.
And we've seen a huge surge of users with anxiety issues, workload issues, work loss issues. So we understand that this is and we've run this helpline forever, like but of course in a COVID world, this is a big focus for us. Plus,
Right.
other forms of support available on the Sheroes community. So there
Right.
is we have a health community, so you can speak to a doctor, you can ask a medical question on the community, and somebody will respond to you. We have a legal advice community. You can leave a question, and an expert will sort of respond back. We have a community around relationships where you can also get peer advice. You can speak with other women undergoing very similar situations. And then, of course, we have a huge focus on, work life, corporate life, jobs, entrepreneurship, employment. That's a core focus. In fact, on the Sheroes app, we've been running initiatives to sort of, lessen the effect of, the stress that COVID is producing. In fact, we ran this beautiful activity called Self Love about 2 weeks ago. Some brilliant responses. So what we are doing is we are stepping up our effort around mental health, around support to the community, around upskilling. So a lot of this is, by the way, on our blogs, why I mentioned it, so that you can read what we've been doing. And this has been a big focus last, 6 to 8 weeks. We've been consistently supporting the community. We are seeing a surge in women seeking out help, but also women planning out new courses. They're saying, hey, I will upscale, I will start a new business, I will do something else. So it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity on the other side, where women are saying, hey, let me reinvent and let me figure out what can I do, with what we have today. But as a platform, we're very, very committed to sort of, doing this. Empathy and trust are at core of our own existence. And everything we do stands to benefit women directly as a platform. So we have really doubled down our efforts on making sure women get more support, during this time. We also have a team volunteering with the Delhi government COVID war room with Step One. So there are about 200 women who are supporting the, Step One initiatives. So we're doing the best that we possibly can at this point.
Awesome, awesome. And okay, so I've got one more question, which talks about a lot of companies kind of have restored to cutting costs and kind of taking some other measures
Yeah.
because of the COVID pressures.
Yeah.
So has Heroes also taken such measures? And from a business perspective, since you are running a platform, which is a community platform, if someone is also running a similar business, the person is saying, how can he manage the costs and the revenues at this point in time, and and what are the kind of measures that Sheroes has taken from a business point of view,
Yeah.
to run over this phase?
Right. So look, I think, so I want to share something. I was in China in December. So when I came back, I knew something is happening, but I did not know what is going to happen. But I had an intuition. So actually, we started our cost cutting in January. So when actually the lockdown happened, we didn't do any layoffs, any of that. But what we've been doing, for the last 6 months is reducing our costs on all sides, not just people costs. Look, a company is many costs. Your server bills, every company has a lot of riffraff you pay for, which is that's not necessary. Your other costs like marketing and everything. So we've been sort of reducing a lot of that. We've also reduced our team size, but we did this early on in Jan and Feb. So much before any of this thing started. And the other thing that we are really sort of working on is ramping up our revenues. So we've gone into this major break-even mode. So as a company, we said, look, we got to do this, come whatever may. We are on a mission, and we also have to align to what market is sort of saying to us. So look, the fundamentals of running a company are very simple: increase your revenue, cut your cost. And the good thing in a COVID world is, look, you can do this in many ways. So even you're asking your team members to leave, you will still have some freelance work. Give it back to them. So do things, but don't kill your relationships. I think that's important. And second is the market is also presenting itself, in interesting ways in terms of opportunities it's seeking. My thesis on this market is do things that help people. So if people are able to find more income via you, they're able to find more support via you. So in this market, give more than you take. So this is not a market where people are spending lavishly. People disposable incomes have gone down. Livelihoods are at stake. So clearly build products that help a large number of people are and or change your business model accordingly. If you're a D2C brand, then help people distribute your products and things like that. So I think one has to sort of fundamentally think about the market we are in and sort of respond accordingly. And that's a little bit of what as well, while making sure that we forget the P&L playbook. Look, that though that body of knowledge cannot be changed by
Sure.
our into it.
Sure.
So making sure that you are sort of trying hard there. We definitely have in terms of our own cost measures and revenue measures.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I think one last question that we will quickly take. Again, I think a lot of women, they seem to have lost their jobs also in this phase, right? So, what could be the alternate opportunities for them, and when do you think, will the job market be again opening up, or will at least go back to pre-COVID state? What are the opportunities that they should now try to target?
Right. So look, I think I say this all the time that we are all entrepreneurs now, and what seems like a job loss or a corporate loss is actually entrepreneurship's gain. This is your chance to sort of, uh, be be someone who can capitalize on what you have. Whether it's your skill, whether it's an idea that you've been harboring, or whether it's a hobby that you've been working on, or a problem you want to solve. So and I think this is the best time to test any of that. And look, we don't know when the job market's going to come back. We hope it will, but it may also take a long time. And the truth is, job growth in India hasn't kept up with the growth of our own aspirations. So for us, the real win is in entrepreneurship. So become a micro entrepreneur, become a founder, become whatever helps you take your ideas to life. And if you don't feel you have the risk capacity to do that, then help somebody build theirs. I think building is the only way out for India. We have to build to solve problems around us. We have to build for the population we have. We have to build for products and services that that users want. And I think that's the only way out. There is nobody who's going to come and rescue us. Hopefully jobs will come back and we can go back to it. But I think the biggest thing we have to work on is our own mindset. That let's just assume none of this is going to. There is going to be a new normal, and what we know as normal is now going to come back.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think with that, we'll just conclude this talk for today. Thanks once again for giving us this valuable time of yours. And I think it was a very, very inspiring and insightful talk with you today. Thanks so much, Sairee. And wishing you all the best to you, to the entire team at Sheroes. And I'm sure that you will continue to inspire millions of women in India and across the world. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you for
Bye.
having me.